So, as of recording this video, we are almost exactly 10 hours away from FNAF and Dead by Daylight, which honestly blows my mind. But that aside, like a few days ago, I came up with some predictions for both Year 10 as a whole and the FNAF chapter specifically, as you can see on screen. And considering I wanted to make a video on this, and I kept delaying it, and now I am at the point where I have to speed run it and then go to sleep for the stream tomorrow. I can't do editing or anything. All of this is real time. None of it's going to be edited. I'm probably not going to do a real thumbnail. Maybe I will. I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to quickly go over my predictions just because I thought it'd be cool to go back after the anniversary stream, maybe even Year 10 as a whole, and to see how right I was, how completely wrong I was, or if I was somewhere in the middle. So let's get started because I should already be in bed, but I'm not. So, speedrunning this, I think just for FNAF as Hama Shimie, FNAF is chapter 36. I think obviously Springtrap is going to be the killer. There are other pretty good picks for a killer FNAF-wise, like Ennard, Nightmare, Mimic, as much as I don't like the killer. Hopefully Secrets of the Mimic will change that, but there are good picks besides Springtrap, but he is the antagonist of FNAF. And the entire FNAF and Dead by Daylight movement happened because of Springtrap. It would not exist without him. So, while I like the idea of there being a part 2 with another killer, or even them just doing, like, Ennard Unknown skins, Springtrap has to be the killer for this chapter. And then moving on to survivors, I think that Michael, Afton, and Vanessa will be the survivors, which is what I want. And also what I think, because this is all predictions, not just desires. Because I think, obviously, they don't want to miss out on, like, a monetization opportunity for what I would argue the biggest chapter Dead by Daylight may ever have, at the very least, has ever had. So why would they not make 2 survivors with that? Because we've had that with both Resident Evil chapters, one original chapter with Tools of Torment, Renato and Thalita, and then Stranger Things. So I see next to no reason they don't do dual survivors, because this way they could also do a full FNAF movie collection, with obviously Yellow Rabbit for Springtrap, and then Michael Schmidt and Vanessa Shelley as separate legendaries, and not just stacking them both on Michael or something like that. So I think it's most likely for that reason, and also, again, just the monetization. And again, thankfully, it's what I want. And then there's the map. I don't really have an exact prediction. As you can see, I have 3 separate ones, but what I could narrow it down to was just a combination of FNAF 1 plus 3, so just the FNAF 1 Pizzeria and then Fazbear's Fright. The first location, like FNAF 1-wise, not the first ever Fazbear's location, plus an outside area, like a parking lot and such. And then Fazbear's Fright with an outside area, think like the Rarethling concept. Pretty much exactly like that. There is a chance that they do the first option, or at least something like that, where it's just indoors. I honestly really hope they don't go that route, because most indoor maps, to be completely frank, I think suck. So I hope there's an outdoor section, Jesus. And that could also allow like a pretty cool perspective to look at the pizzeria or Fazbear Frights from outside, since we've never really gotten that before, at least officially. I don't think. Actually, I mean, there is the movie, but apart from that. And then, moving on to the next point, I think there's going to be a massive collection on release. I think they're going to add more cosmetics later on, but on release, there is going to be a wave of cosmetics. They are, again, not going to miss out on the insanely lucrative opportunity that is Five Nights at Freddy's. There's going to be so many cosmetics, there's a lot of potential for cosmetics. So yeah, I think just a massive collection on release, a bunch of legendary skins, some very rare, some like cosplays, stuff like that. There's going to be a lot. And on a similar note, I think that the next tome, Tome 24, is going to be FNAF themed, which will release like a month and a half after the live release of FNAF. Because again, this is yet another money-making opportunity, and could just allow for a lot of cool like charms and icons and stuff to shove into the Rift. Hopefully they bring lore back in time for Tome 24, because getting a lot of FNAF lore is very heavy in FNAF. So missing out on lore like for a FNAF tome would be really disappointing. Whether they bring it back or not is not a prediction. My only prediction, the thing that I think is likely, is Tome 24 as FNAF. And then last for the, FNAF chapter section, I think there is going to be a collection specifically dedicated to the FNAF movie, either on or close to the release of the chapter, or this line makes no fucking sense. I'm just gonna free something. There's either gonna be a FNAF movie collection, with the release of the chapter, or closer to the release of FNAF 2, the movie. Because, like I said earlier, perfect opportunities for Yellow Rabbit, Skin for Springtrap, Michael Schmidt for, hopefully, Michael Afton, and then Vanessa Shelley for, hopefully, Vanessa from Security Breach. I think it's just pretty much a slam dunk of a collection, yet again, a further monetization opportunity. I don't know where, likely prediction-wise, getting likenesses of Matthew Lillard and Josh Hutcherson would fall, but I would obviously really be excited for that. I really hope they do that if they do a FNAF movie collection. But as far as whether or not it's likely, I don't know. I really hope so. But to be completely honest, maybe this is just me on my cynicism side, but I think it's leaning towards not as likely. But a FNAF movie collection in and of itself, I think is pretty likely. Then moving on to my next section, and just year 10 in general, done with FNAF, I think that there is going to be at least one Licensed Survivor mid-chapter, and my guess as to when it'll be is 36.5 right after FNAF, which will be right at the same time as FNAF the tome will hit. If not, then just Tome 24. And I think more specifically, if I had to guess, it'll be The Last of Us. This is not really a super confident theory. It kind of was at the time. Now it's just more loose, and again, if I had to guess something, it's more like a 51%, I don't know. I wouldn't even say 51% chance. I think it's just semi-likely. And so my reasoning is, and I also think, I put right here, I forgot to say, I think it'll be a dual Survivor mid-chapter with Joel and Ellie. If not, then probably just Ellie, but hopefully Joel and Ellie. I think that'd be pretty cool. My reasoning why it'd be 36.5 specifically, and then I'll get to Last of Us in a moment, is that it's more content in a condensed period of time to keep new players from FNAF engaged. So, just generally, I think there's a Licensed Survivor mid-chapter somewhere in year 10, and I think it pretty much not has to be, but is most likely right after FNAF because of, again, keeping them engaged. And why I think this Licensed Survivor mid-chapter, wherever it may fall, is most likely to be Last of Us is because, for one, Season 2 is airing right now, and will either be wrapping up or will have just wrapped up by the time this mid-chapter would theoretically come out. So it would still either be in the Season 2 hype or still riding off of it, so close enough for it to be a well-timed release. Then Tome 23 seems to be relatively The Last of Us-esque. It's not super one-to-one, it's not like, oh my god, it's 100% teasing Last of Us. But there's pretty much all there is just some of the cosmetics have mushrooms. That is about it, to be fair. It's not a super strong, solid theory, but I still think it's kind of likely. And there was a theme that leaked. I'm not going to show it, but you can check Dweet's Twitter if you really want to know. There is a unknown cosmetic collection theme that was leaked a few weeks ago at this point, and we still do not know what it is for. It does sound closer and more in line to something like The Witcher, but I do honestly believe it would fit for The Last of Us 2. Then moving on from that mid-chapter and Last of Us tidbit, I think just really quickly, one and done, I think Chapter 37 is going to be original, because there's been too much licensed content, even just with what I've said, and even just with what I've said, that's a lot of licensed content, but you have to keep in mind just lately, year and a half, today, there's been so much licensed content, going backwards. Obviously, we have FNAF right now, and then going back, we had Tokyo Ghoul, we had Castlevania, we had Lara Croft, we had Dungeons & Dragons, we had, I'm trying to think of everything off the top of my head, Chucky, Alan Wake, Xenomorph, Nicolas Cage, all in a 2-year period. That is a lot. And that is just chapters and mid-chapters. That's not counting licensed collections and stuff. Because there was also Junji Ito and then Iron Maiden, Slipknot. There has been a lot of licensed content and not as much original content lately. So I both think and hope that they're going to try and at least 50-50 balance Year 10 with licensed and original, and that pretty much means Chapter 37 has to be original. Especially because, with my next tidbit, I believe Chapter 38 is going to be Predator, with Dutch as a survivor. I will probably make a fully fledged theory video on this sometime after the 9th anniversary livestream, because I want to have the roadmap before I make this theory. But we all know we're getting it at some point, right? It's just all but guaranteed. For those who don't know, Alien and Predator are owned by the same license holders, Disney, and we obviously have Alien in this game, and Behavior's relationship with them seems really good. We are still getting semi-frequent Xenomorph / Ellen Ripley cosmetics, and that is just pretty good, especially comparatively speaking, because there's a bunch of license holders that either have no cosmetics, like Freddy, or just a relative lack of. And Xenomorph, I'd say, is pretty good considering how long he's been in the game. And then also, with Chapter 38 specifically, why I think Predator this one is specific, is because of the new Predator movie, Badlands, is going to release right around the time that this chapter should release. We don't obviously know the exact date for the PTB live release, any of that, but DBD chapters typically fall around the same general time frames. And I could double check real quick. Why don't I do that? Why don't I do that real quick? Predator Badlands release date. Yeah, November 7th, 2025. And let me also check. Wait, what was the November chapter? Houndmaster DBD release date. Hopefully this works, which is a quick Google search. November 28th. Okay, that is perfect. Because that is the live release. That is 3 weeks off. However, like I just said, it's the live release. Okay? The PTB was exactly 3 weeks before, November 7th, which is 1-for-1 when Predator Badlands is releasing. Obviously, it won't be... I mean, it could be November 7th again for Chapter 38. But either way, even if it's not a day or two off, that is extremely close. Extremely close. So I think it's been way too long. Well, it's been long enough. It's been long enough. I should say that. Since we've gotten the Alien chapter, that was Chapter 29. That was, at this point, almost 2 years ago. So I think there's plenty good spacing in between that and Predator. And if we don't even get it for Chapter 38, it will come at some point, I almost guarantee you. But with stuff like the Grid Xenomorph skin and the timing with Predator Badlands, I think it is incredibly likely, honestly. And then we'll probably get a collection to coincide with Badlands and or the Hulu movie, which I forget the name of, and I don't feel like looking that up. And then, just really quickly, I think Chapter 39 will also be original. Because, again, so far in Year 10, we have FNAF, theoretically Last of Us, or just some other license. I'm not super strong on Last of Us, but some licensed mid-chapter survivor, right after FNAF, probably, Chapter 37 as original, and then Chapter 38 as Predator. So that is a lot of licensed content, again, still not considering the past 2 years. So this should definitely be an original chapter as well, is my guess. Just plain and simple, should be an original chapter. And then, not technically in Year 10, which I do list here, but I have a prediction for Chapter 40 that I wanted to include here just because I wanted to. I think Chapter 40 / the 10th anniversary will either be an original chapter or Jason Voorhees. I think, obviously, the 10th anniversary is a massive, massive occasion for any game, anything at all. The 10th anniversary is an insane milestone. So I think, and personally hope even, that the 10th anniversary of Dead by Daylight will either be an original chapter, a celebration of Dead by Daylight itself, an original character, a really cool character, someone hyped up in the lore, maybe like that spider thing that was on a water town, I think Macmillan, like a year ago at this point, in a kind of oldish Haunted by Daylight event. It could be leading up to this original killer that's been planned. And then some really cool survivor, maybe like the Observer or something. Really cool map. It either has to be an original celebration of Dead by Daylight itself, its own identity, or a massive, massive license. And I'm pretty sure the only thing that really fits to this, I'm a big Predator fan, but I don't really think it does fit here. I think the only license that really does is Jason Voorhees. He is the slasher, as much as I personally don't like him as a character. Just Friday the 13th. I've never watched any of the movies, is what I mean to say. He absolutely deserves to be in Dead by Daylight, and is pretty much the Dead by Daylight license we don't have at this point. He deserves to be in it and would absolutely fit for an anniversary, and I would even argue the 10th anniversary. It is a huge milestone getting Jason Voorhees in and of itself, and I think the 10th anniversary would be perfect for that. And I know licensing has been pretty rough, but I think I have that right here. I think Jason is more likely, which is also, this is a likely thing, not fitting. I think he's actually likely to be the 10th anniversary because Multiverses pretty much died just completely. Jason was in that, so Warner Brothers, I think that's the license holders, would be more open and try and add Jason to like other games and stuff like that now that Multiverses is no longer an option. That's just my theory, basically. I think it's more likely. It's not 100%. I think this is more likely than my Last of Us theory, but not as likely as, say, my Predator theory, my ideas on the FNAF chapter. But I do think if licensed, it pretty much has to be Jason or Pennywise. And I put if they can somehow get that license. And one thing I want to add really quick is just a few days ago, they released or teased a Funko Pop collection. No, it was U2's for Pennywise. And that is huge for Dead by Daylight. I think Stephen King has the license rights to Pennywise right now, and he has gone on record saying he hates video games. But even if this is just making him a 0.1% more likely, I think it does make him, just a 0.1% more likely. Just a little bit. A little bit, because the license, if nothing else, is active. We can see that very clearly. But whether or not that means Stephen King is more open to video games now is an entirely different conversation. Anyway, I believe that is it. That is all I have to say, all my theories, all my predictions. This turned out to be a pretty long video. And I know it was really simple, really atypical for my typical videos. I hope you all enjoyed it still. I will try again and get an actual video out sometime soon. If not a theory video, just an actual, like, well-edited video that took me hours. This just took me 20 minutes. But still, I hope you all enjoyed watching it. I hope you're all even remotely as excited for the anniversary as I am. But regardless... Oh, wait, I need to shout out my members. I have that as a thing. Shout out Stan. I'm pretty sure he's the only member I have. Massive shout out to Stan Swag. Love you, bro. Anyway, I hope you all have... Wait, that's not how my intro goes. Intro. Outro. I'm at the end of the video, fun fact. But regardless, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.